I want to first introduce today's guest speaker. I have this written down, but I feel like I know it from heart, but I'm going to just read it so I don't miss anything. And if you were here yesterday, you know what a phenomenal person Reverend Bill is. So our guest speaker today, Reverend Bill McDonald, he has been on a spiritual journey for the past 7 decades. His whole life has been a mystical trip in search of gurus, the paranormal, and self-discovery. He has written about his many spiritually transforming experience and near-death experiences, including supernatural events during his combat tour in the Vietnam War. He is an award-winning author and poet, international motivational speaker, artist, mystic, film advisor, veteran advocate, and Vietnam veteran with many at least over a dozen medals and awards. And he's also a spiritual social media influencer. He has spoken around the world to include countries such as Germany, England, Wales, Bolivia, and India. And he has been involved in over a dozen films and documentaries. He is a seeker, but not only for himself. His mission is to allow others to experience his journey through his stories. Ladies and gentlemen, our featured guest speaker, Reverend Bill McDonald.
I normally start off, and some of you notice if you've been to several events, I scan the audience. I'm basically looking at who you are, so I know what you need to hear. And by the way, can you stand up? Just so I want people to see. No, beautiful lady with one green eye, one blue eye. All right, you said something to me before we started. Okay, and I just want people to see you're real. You can sit down. I was doing a healing service yesterday, a workshop, and she was sitting up here, and I'm staring into her eyes, and she has, if you look at them, they're hazel. But I said, no. One eye is flashing blue. We're turning blue here. And she looked at me like I was crazy, like, no, I got hazel eyes. Okay. When she left the event and she went to some local store and she's shopping and she sees this young lady and they're looking at each other smiling and then I think you said to the lady that she was a beautiful girl and she said the same thing to you, beautiful woman. And she says, I really like your blue eyes. Is that what happened? Right? So she went from this experience, me telling her, and she's arguing with me that, no, I got hazel eyes. And the first person she sees in the store that has a conversation with her says, I like your blue eyes. Let that sit in. Blue is one of those colors, and if you follow Indian tradition and Indian religions, they always talk about the blue lotus feet of the guru, or the blue lotus feet of Krishna. Blue is a very special color. But it's one of many lights, one of many of enlightenments. The theme is the power of love. Let me just get this off, because I was sitting here thinking, what an arrogant, egotistical person I was. I thought I was going to come here and give you all something. I prayed, let me have something to give these people. I'm going to give them something. I sat through this thing before it started and during the service and hearing this wonderful, moving, emotional, high-frequency singing. And I'm going, I should be happy that I'm here getting gifted. This is a special place. This really is a true sanctuary, it's a spiritual place. And I speak from somebody, I've been to all the sacred places in the world, not all of them, can't be, but many sacred places in the world, including Babaji's Cave. And there's a special feeling when you walk into the Notre Dame or you walk into the Vatican City or whatever. This place is sacred. And it's not sacred because it's a building. It's sacred because of the people that occupy this building and who have occupied it for decades. You are what makes this place sacred. The temple of God is within. You're bringing that into this temple. The song about I am light. I am love. If you read my books, yeah, I write books. I know. Sorry. I won't mention the names. But I always talk about light is love. There's no difference. In the beginning, God created light. God created light with the power of love. Because God is love. No matter what title you want to call God, you know, you want to call God Jesus, you want to call Buddha, you want to pray to Krishna, it doesn't matter. You know, if God the Father, God the Mother, Divine Mother, it doesn't make any difference. God's not offended. And for the record, Jesus is not Christian. And Buddha is not Buddhist. But we are all one. Why? Because we're all made of love. You ever look at the scriptures and it says, you know, we're all made in the image of God, and you look at everybody and you go, really? God would do this to people? Come on, look like me. Anyway. But if we're all from love, we've been touched by the grace of love, that we have this existence here, then everything is made from love, because love is God. Meaning even the chair you're sitting on, this building, the beautiful mountains of Hawaii, the ocean. You know, it's interesting, when I was a young man living here and had a kahuna that kind of adopted me, he always used to talk about go in nature. You don't have to go to the church. You don't have to go to the temple. Just go out and sit in the forest. Go sit by the waterfall. Very powerful, by the way. But the spirit of love exists at all levels of nature. Don't look from it just people, from dogs, cats, you know. It's everywhere. It's in plants. It's in rocks. It's in coral. Once you truly see that everything is made of love, then there's nothing that is not God. I went into a Buddhist temple in India. Let's see, one of my trips, I think it was 2004. And nobody was there. It was just me, which is a great way to visit a temple. It was nice and clean. I walked in there, and I'm tired and I'm old, you know, and my feet I can't sit in a lotus position anymore. So I'm sitting there and I got my legs kind of stretched out towards what looks like the altar. And this carekeeper comes over with a broom, starts banging me. You know, you can't, it's sacrilegious. You can't point your feet towards God. And I said, okay, tell me what direction God is not. He got disgusted and left. But the point is, God is us. When you close your eyes, no matter where you're at in the world, we're all in the same place. There's no other place. And when people, I was get kind of irritated a little bit with people. I'm praying to God. I go, is God someplace else? You're praying to, like it's not. The more separation you have between you and the divine, that's where the problems begin. And so I teach in my classes the first thing about love, which will sound familiar to people here in Hawaii, because when I was a young man, this kahuna says, I'm gonna teach you how to heal people. I go, oh, yeah, okay, because I already had my own methods. And he goes, first thing you got to do, got to learn to love yourself. And I'm going, where's this going? Right? Sound familiar? And then you got to forgive, and then you got to have gratitude, all those things. And as a young 18-year-old at the time, I'm thinking, okay, fine, I'll never use this. But I realized a few years later, decades later, that that's been my entire life. And it starts with loving yourself. That's the power of love. When you change you, I don't care what Trump or anybody else is doing in the world. It doesn't matter. I'm changing me. I can't change the world. But you can. When you change the frequency in you to a higher level of love, you're adding to the power and the frequency of the world. They always say, well, I can't do anything. I'm only one person. Well, if Buddha was just one person, I'm sure he changed a few. Or Jesus. It's all about our frequency. And what's frequency but light? Light, frequency, love, it's all one. And it's all from the same source. But I'm telling you right now, because I go around the world and Kanye has been at many of my events, and no matter where we go, we find that people really don't know how to love themselves. And I'm going, what? Parents don't teach it to you? No, self-esteem. No, it's got nothing. It's love. Loving you is not selfish. It's divine. And when you realize that God is you, meaning you are God, and that also means that the God in you is the same God that's in me. We, looking for a pronoun in California. What pronoun do you go by? I go by they. No, I go by us. It's all us. There's just us. People look for a definition of God, and I say, I call God love. Forget all the dogma. Go to any church you want, read any scriptures you want, believe anything you want, have any faith you want. It doesn't matter. But if you practice something, practice it, do it right. But it doesn't really matter. In the end, it only matters who you loved. Think about that. Not who loved you, but who did you love? And did you love those people that didn't love you back? Woo! Love thy enemies, right? So I'm telling people, love yourself. Know that you are God. So you're loving God. When you love yourself, you're really loving God. When you're loving God, you're loving yourself. Easy. And what's the scripture say? Love thy neighbor as you love yourself. Well, that makes sense. Because God is that neighbor as well. But then there's that harder one that people can't handle. They don't want to hear it is, love thy enemies. Oh, my God, I got to love my enemies. You notice it doesn't say you have to like your enemies. It just says you have to love them. So it's all right not to like them. But you got to love them because God is in them. And we should be concerned as society for the people on the bottom of this thing. It's like, what happens to the poorest and the weakest and the nastiest and all that other stuff? We are one consciousness. It does affect us at some level. And it's important upon us to reach out, pray for, love, give, serve at whatever capacity we can. It may be just being a great grandparent and helping the next generation come up. There's lots of ways to serve. It doesn't have to be on the pulpit. Not everybody can be a crazy Irishman, and come up here and tell stories. I'm going to tell you a story about love. This is what I originally thought about talking about until I got into Blue Eyes over here. My daughter, if some of you have read my books, you know my daughter's in a lot of my stories, earlier books. And she was going through some great difficulties in her life. And this is one of those times where I spent like 4 months in India away from home, right? Well, she's grown up, she's an adult, right? But I'm 4 months in India in an ashram. I mean, I'm talking, cold water baths. I'm talking about, primitive toilets, primitive everything, no radio, no smartphones, no internet. So I'm totally out there isolated. And while I'm gone, she wanted to get a hold of me, but there was no way to get a hold of me because she had these troubling, she had some questions. So she went to somebody that I knew that was a Vedic astrologer who knew me and said, well, this and that to give her advice. And he used a word she didn't fully understand the content of it. She's a college graduate, but it was like that word could be construed. So she went to her bookshelf and picked up, and she was like in her 40s. Yeah, 40s at the time. And she picked up her dictionary from high school. High school. Sitting there, like 20-something years. And she picks up and she goes to that word, and when she opens the page in the dictionary, there was a note that I wrote for her. Basically told her I loved her very much. And in times of need, I would always be there for her. 25 years before, I put that note in the dictionary right next to that word. Some coincidence, huh? It's the power of love. I love my daughter very much. There's a connection. I've been married over 55 years. I've known my wife since 1960, so that's 65 years. You know, it's interesting. My wife is getting older, and in her mind, she's old. And I'm looking at her, and I still see a 14-year-old high school girlfriend. It's the power of love. Got nothing to do with physical beauty. Got nothing to do with the color of your eyes, right? It's love. You love somebody, you love somebody. If you love a dog, people, oh, a dog died, and you're crying, and somebody goes, well, it's only a dog. No, it's not only a dog. It's something you loved, and it loved you back. I'm telling each of you right now, look inside. That's where you find your happiness. Nobody's going to give it to you. You don't have to, but you don't have to do anything to earn it. Just be you. Stand up and say, it's okay. I'll be 79 next month. And so I'm at that age now. I finally made up my mind. I'm saying, I don't really care what other people's opinion are of me anymore. It's taken me this long to realize that, you know, I'm just going to say my truth. If I don't say it now, when am I going to say it? Right? Because I'll admit, I admit this, that I was a people pleaser at once upon a time. You know, if somebody didn't like, well, you know, but when you're a people pleaser, you adjust a little bit. You're not quite showing your real self. You don't. And I'm saying now, please you first. It's not egotistical. Please you. Do what you got to do. Say what you got to say. But be kind. Be kind. And it starts with kindness to yourself. How many have been living with childhood shame and guilt and all kinds of things, you know? Yeah. You know, you're stupid, you're ugly, you're a bedwetter, you're gay, you're whatever it is, right? And people just, oh, shame, shame. There's no shame if you're God. It's all one, it's all the same, it's all us. Give it up. Forgive you. Forgive yourself. If you can't forgive yourself, you can't forgive anybody else. You think you can. Well, I can forgive this person because they didn't know any better and they did this to me. I forgive them. But me, I knew better. I'm more highly enlightened. I did these things. I can't forgive me. I knew better. Yeah, just you know better than God, right? And if you don't love yourself, you can't love anybody else, even if you think you do. There's a third part of that thing about loving and forgiving. The third part, which is as important, is gratitude for everything that happened to you. Everything. Meaning, even the stuff that you don't like cancer. I've been going through some cancer since 1979. It's taken a toll. I'm grateful for every moment of it. Every surgery I had, I'm grateful. Beautiful things. There's been a gift. We talked about one of these songs about the gift. You talked about the gift. When you look at everything that happens to you in your life as a gift, what is it in this? I don't tell people, well, everything there's a lesson, because that sounds like a punishment. Go think about this. There's a lesson there. But if I tell them it's a gift, go unwrap it. Because it gives you an opportunity. I'll give you a story. I think I told the group yesterday, and so some of you weren't there. But I had a man come to me, not very virtuous. He was not well liked in the community. He was 3 divorces, 3 ex-wives, kids he didn't even know, grandkids he didn't know. He was a boss. Nobody liked him. Anyways, he gets this medical diagnosis that he's got 6 months to live. He's got stage 4 cancer. He comes in to tell me thinking, well, Reverend Bill's this great quote-unquote energy healer. He's going to take care of me. And I go, no, it's your time to go. What kind of? I said, no, this is a gift. He goes, what do you mean it's a gift? I got 6. He says, you know when you're going. And now you know what you got to do and how much time you got left to make it happen. Clean it up. He wasn't very happy. He left. Didn't hear from him. Until I read the obituary. He died 6 months later. Go to the funeral, and I walk in there, and there's his ex-wives all sitting together, his grandkids that he didn't even know, children, whole community of people that work for him. The place was full. I'm going, what happened from this unpopular, unhappy guy, right? So I talked to the wives, and turned out he was helping with kids' college education, finances. He was helping with this. He was tutoring his grandchildren. He was taking them for. He was doing all this, and I thought, well, he was doing that, and he probably had empathy for these people because he was dying. So I figured, and I said, well, I asked him that. I said, were you just letting him do this? And everybody was nice to him because he was dying. He says, dying? We didn't know he was dead till we read his obituary. We didn't know he was dying. Never told him he had the cancer. He just went and started being the person that he should have been in the first place. You wake up tomorrow, I don't care what you were yesterday. Your karma will catch up with you. But I don't care. Start each day and go, I'm born again each day. I can be whoever I dreamed I want to be. If you think you're a saint, wake up tomorrow and act like a saint. Right? It changes your life. But it is through the power of love that we find God. And that power is within us. And we're all connected in this. People, well, what's God? One consciousness that we all share is God, called love. But we're all in it. So I'm going to get enlightened, and I'm going to go to, nobody's beating you to heaven or wherever you think you're going. No one's beating you to enlightenment. Since there's only now, right? It's only now. We're all getting there together. We're all on the bus. Some of us will choose to take a long way and suffer and pains. But I'm telling you all, as I look at you, the beauty of the light is here. And I mentioned this a couple of times this week. I don't travel alone. I'll just let it go. I don't travel alone. We're in the presence of energy here. Feel it. Feel it. Now, at this time, I'd like to introduce somebody that's enhanced my life and my presentations and the lives of others. Kana, she wants to come up here. She was in Switzerland with me recently. She was in the Czech Republic, Germany, and all kinds of other cities as I do my world tour. Not because she's just a great person, but I also love her healing voice. And in Czechoslovakia, she knows that my favorite song is Amazing Grace, which she's going to grace you with today. But people didn't understand English. So she says, I'll take care of that. And she sang Amazing Grace just with her voice, with no words. It was so beautiful. So it's not necessarily the words, but it's the energy of it. Thank you.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a soul like me. I once was lost, but now am found. 'Twas blind, but now I see. everyone please join? We have it here, verse 2. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious is that grace appeared the hour I first believed. We'll go to verse 3. Through many dangers, toils, and snares that have already come. 'Tis grace has brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. Please join everyone. When we've been dead 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we know less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Final verse. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a soul like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
And as we move into this moment of reflection, of inner stillness, that amazing grace, that love within us, closing the outer eyes and sitting in that peace, the peace that only God, the greatest giver, has given. And taking a breath that into the very essence of your being. Repeating, I am love. I am love. As we rest in the silence. and awaking to the truth of our very being. You are love, you are loving, and you are lovable forever.